Today we're going to do a walkthrough of the step-by-step instructions for our Excel Essentials class. The assignment is to create a table highlighting an individual employee's sales over the year, broken down by quarters. To get started, we are working with a blank Excel workbook. To begin, we are going to label our sheet for our employee, Mr. Norman Osborne. Uh, we're assuming we may need to use this same document or workbook in the future for other employees. And so we want to make sure that there is ample space through multiple sheets to add them in. To keep track of whose information we are looking at, we're going to update where it says sheet 1 just by doing a double click and renaming this Norman Osborne Sales. To save that name, I'm going to press Enter on the keyboard, and I'll be brought right back to my cell A1. If you need to change your view, you can do so up in the View tab. There are some zoom options. We can adjust over here, including custom sizing. For now, I'll leave mine at 200%. We're going to break down Norman's sales of 3 specific types of cookies: sugar, chocolate chip, and oatmeal. To make sure that all of these fit nicely into column A, we're going to double click with our 2-headed arrow, and that will widen the column automatically to fit. Now, we've forgotten to give our column a label. To insert a new row above, we're going to select any cell in row 1. I'll use A1. Go over to our Home tab, and then in the Cells group, select Insert and Insert Sheet Rows. Now going to label A1 Cookie Type. And you can press Enter or Tab or use your arrow keys to move out of the cell. Next, I'm going to update this list so that it's in alphabetical order. To do so, I'm going to go from the Home tab to the Editing group, Sort and Filter. We will choose Custom Sort and tell Excel that our column has a label by checking off My Data Has Headers. You'll see it will automatically update the Sort By option to the information that's in the header position, in this case A1. Then it's going to confirm if we are sorting the cell values and if we're doing so from A to Z. We are, so we can press OK. Now that we have our information sorted, we can go on to the next step. Starting in cell B1, we're going to write out quarters 1, 2, 3, and 4. Once I've typed in quarter 1, I can use the fill handle or the fill tool to update the rest. The fill handle is the small black plus sign bottom right-hand corner, and that would fill in the pattern. If you're having trouble using the fill handle or just prefer another method, you can highlight the cell that has the information you'd like to copy, in this case B1, and drag over to highlight the empty cells you'd like to fill that information in. All of these selected, we're going to go to the Editing group, Fill Series, and here we need to let Excel know what we'd like it to do. We're going to leave Series In alone because we are filling across rows or a row, and we're going to change our type to Autofill. From here, we can just say OK, and you'll see that the series is filled in with increasing numbers. Something kind of useful that Excel also does is by identifying the fact that we've written the word quarter. So if I were to use my fill handle to extend the series, it's going to start repeating quarters 1, 2, 3, and 4 because there can only be 4 quarters of something. Now that we have our quarters set up, I'm going to enter in the data. All right, with our data all set up, we're going to begin finding the averages. I want to know, on average, how many cookies across all three types was Norman selling each quarter. So to keep our labeling, I'm going to select cell A5 and type in quarterly average. And again, this doesn't quite fit, so I'm just going to double click and align this to fit nicely. The average we can determine with a function. So selecting B5, I'm going to go again to my editing group. And next to AutoSum, you'll see a small down pointing arrow. This gives us all of our functions. If we don't see what we need here, there are plenty more under more functions. Average is a pretty common one, so we're going to click on average. And from here, you'll see that Excel identified where there was number information adjacent to our cell. In this case, it noticed that these were probably the numbers we wanted to use, which is correct. I don't need to make any changes and can simply press enter to save that. Now I can do this again or even write it in myself. Notice capitalization doesn't matter. And let Excel work from there. You'll see it will automatically update what you've written. Or you can use the fill handle to finish it up. Once we've done this, we want to round those numbers. I'm going to highlight all of those. Now, I'd certainly use the decrease decimal tool over here. Another option, if you have a longer string of decimals, is to select this little square icon to the right of our number group label. This opens a dialog box. You'll notice these in a number of different places within the Excel ribbon, and they give you access to tools within a certain group. In this case, I want to adjust a number. And so I'm going to tell it I would like it to be a number with decimal places at 0. If I had a very long string of decimals, instead of clicking through over and over on the decrease decimal tool, I could go in here and simply type in the number 0 or whatever decimal places was appropriate. And there we go. All of our numbers have been rounded to the nearest whole number. Next, we want to also see the total amount of each cookie that Norman sold. So in cell F1, we're going to write total units sold. Now, I certainly could widen this, but another option would be to select F1 and then in the alignment group, select the wrap text tool. What this does is increases the height of a cell without adjusting the width of the cell. It's still a little bit taller than it needs to be, so I'm going to manually adjust this using that same two-headed arrow we're familiar with from column width. So from here, we really just need an auto sum. I'm going to click again in editing. This time I can select right where it says auto sum or in the drop-down choose sum. They're both the same. Again, Excel has correctly identified the cells that we'd like to add. It's looking at the range B2 to E2. If we needed to adjust this at all, we certainly could do so in the formula bar or manually by selecting the cells we did want. In this case, it's correct, and I'm going to press enter. And I don't need the total of row 5, but I would like to use the fill handle to get the total for rows 3 and 4. Now that I have this information, we can begin adding in our price per cookie. So G1 is going to say price per cookie. Once I finish typing and press enter, I'm going to click on this one more time and again choose the wrap text tool. Our price per cookie is written in a decimal form. We do not need to put in our dollar signs at this point. We'll let Excel help us with that in a minute. We're going to label H1 total revenue. Again, wrap text. And in here, we'll put in a formula to multiply the total sold, or F2, by the price per cookie, G2. To write this out, we're going to use the equal sign, click on F2 or type it in, the asterisk symbol for multiply, and then click or write in G2. You'll notice that they're both color-coded. Excel will select a color for each individual cell. This is correct, and we can press enter. Again, fill handle to update the rest of our table. Cell I1 is where we'll work out the commission. So here I'm going to label it. Now this one has the wrap text, but I don't want it to be wrapped because it's all one word. So I'm just going to widen it manually a tiny bit. In cell I2, I'm going to multiply my total revenue by 3%. So equals H2 multiplied by 3, and then the percent symbol. And that will give me 3% of the total revenue. I'd also like to add in the total revenue and grand total commission that came in through the whole year across all the cookies. I'd also like to calculate the grand total revenue and grand total commission. To give that a little bit of space from where we're currently at, I'm going to select H6 and here write annual revenue, and then in I6, so making sure to use a new cell, annual commission. I want both of these to be wrapped. So I'm going to select the two cells, and then up in my alignment group, once again, select wrap text. Here we're going to write out the sum function ourselves. So equals sum, open parentheses, and I'm going to use the click, hold, and drag so that Excel writes in the range, close parentheses. Press enter, and we'll see our number. And here I'm just going to do it a slightly different way. Equals sum, open parentheses, I2 to colon I4, close parentheses. All right, so now we have information that needs to be set up in dollar amounts. So I'm going to highlight the range G2 to I4. Change this into currency. I'm going to go to the number group, and from up here where it says general, select the drop down. Clicking on currency, Excel will update these so that they all have a dollar sign, only 2 decimal points, and when appropriate, a comma to indicate that we've gotten into the thousands. I'm also, while this is highlighted, going to center these numbers. So in the alignment group, I'm going to choose center over here. Now I do also need to adjust these, my annual revenue and annual commission. First, I'm going to select one of the cells that has dollar amounts and is centered, and then double click on Format Painter. The double click allows us to use Format Painter more than once, meaning I can click once and then again on annual commission. I'm going to go hang up my Format Painting paintbrush, and I'm all done using that tool. All right, next we're going to add a title cell. So I'm selecting anywhere in row 1, and I can either go to the cells group, insert sheet row, or right click, and from here choose insert entire row, and say OK. They both do the same thing. Next, I'm going to highlight from A1 over to I1 and merge those cells in the alignment group. This turns them all into one larger cell. We'll call this Norman Osborne's sales. I have to click out of the cell and then back onto it to let Excel know I'm done editing. And now I'm going to make a few changes to indicate that this is more of a title than some of the hard information we've got down here. So in doing so, I'm going to change the font size from 11 to 16. We'll underline that text, and I'll use the fill tool to change the background color. Next, I'm going to take the cells in A2 to I2 and give them some similar formatting. I'll make them bold. I think I'll center them, including, because some of them are taller, let's widen I2. Because some of them are taller, we have the option of deciding where those single lines of text fall. Should they be aligned with the bottom, the center, or the top? So in addition to center aligning, I'm going to have the words sort of floating up within their text boxes. I'm also going to add some color. All right, so these labels look pretty set, but I haven't completed some formatting for quarterly average, annual revenue, and annual commission. The easiest way to apply that would once again be the format painter. I'm going to select one of these. Now, because some of these cells have wrap text and some don't, and I do know that we've already wrapped the text for H and I7, I want to copy one that has that same feature. So I will use F2. From here, I'm going to go to the Format Painter and double click, and I can choose quarterly average, annual revenue, and annual commission. And then I'm going to hang back up my Format Painter. Lastly, we're going to chart out some of Norman's sales. So to do that, I'm going to select the information I'd like to visualize, in this case from A2 over to E5. So that's from cookie type down to his sales of sugar cookies in quarter 4, or cell E5. Once we have this, I'm going to select Insert, Recommended Charts. This will show me the different charts that Excel thinks might be the best way to display the information. You can also check all charts, and you'll notice through here that you'll get examples based on your information. And if something simply would not work with the information you have, it'll let you know as well. So I'm going to stick with this very first option, clustered columns, and say OK. This creates a chart. I'm going to make mine a little bit smaller using the resize handle over here, and then with my 4-way arrow, move where it is. You'll notice as you change the size of your chart, it's responsive, everything will shrink down as appropriate. Certainly we want to change our chart title to something a little bit more custom. We're going to rename it Quarterly Sales. And then I'll be leaving this chart exactly as is. For something simple, this works. If I needed other options, I could select the chart, go into Design, and choose some elements from here. Something beneficial about the chart, it's the same information we have in our table, but when you're seeing it, it becomes a little bit clearer that, for example, chocolate chip is always a strong seller. Quarter 3 was the best overall. It really helped to see some of that information. Finally, we're going to get ready to print. If I were to print right now, an example of what I would see is this. It's fine. The information's clear. However, it is on 2 pages with commission hanging out on another page. And it could certainly be a bit larger and easier to read. All right, so in the page layout group, we're going to make a few different changes. First, we're going to go to where it says page setup, and then again, select that dialog box. This will make it a bit easier for us to move through different changes. First, because our information is wider than it is tall, we're going to make it landscape. And we're going to tell Excel we want all the information on one page. So fit to 1 page wide by 1 page tall. Next, we're going to move over to margins, and we'd like to center our information. So towards the bottom over here, it says center on page. I'm going to check off horizontally and vertically. Next, I'm going to go to header and footer, custom header. In here, we can choose some information. So for example, we've given our sheet a name, so I can choose this tool over here to have that in there. Under the center section, we can put today's date using the insert date tool. And then over here, we can put the name of this class, Excel Essentials. I'm going to say OK. You'll see the information is previewed up here. And then we're going to go ahead and say sheet. And the last change is I'd like to have the grid lines printed as well. From here, we can go straight to print, or if we needed to make other changes, select OK. I'm going to go ahead to my print preview to see what it looks like. So here we go. It's the final document. I think it looks much better. And so we have now completed Excel Essentials.